Hello and welcome. My name is Peace Mitchell and I'm co-founder of Women Changing the World Press. Before we begin, I would like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land that I live and work on, the people of Mamu country in North Queensland. And I'd also like to pay my respects and acknowledge the traditional owners and elders, past and present, right across Australia and the Torres Strait. Well, I'm so excited to be launching our newest book, Purpose and Passion, and I'm very honoured to have one of my fellow co-authors joining me for a conversation today, Arusha Patha. Please join me, Arusha.
Hello there. Hi, Pierce. How are you doing?
I'm really good. And it's so lovely to have you here. Now, for people who haven't met you before, I would love you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about the work that you do.
So my name's Arusha Patha. I'm a accredited medical sonographer. I live in Western Australia, in Perth, and I'm the director, the business owner of Rosalie Imaging Services and the Baby Scene, which is a 3D, 4D ultrasound studio. So I do diagnostic scanning of basically the whole body. I'm more focused in pregnancies because I've done my master's in obstetrics and gynecology, which is a big part of my joy in life, I guess. And of course, doing the 3D baby ultrasound pictures is just adding that extra bonding experience to the expectant mums. I'm the mother of 3 children as well. So we've got 2 in the teenage years, which is always a new experience. But yes, so that's sort of me in a nutshell.
Beautiful. So, Arusha, your chapter is called Life is a Journey. Can you tell us a bit about your chapter?
So growing up, my grandfather, who is actually Mauritian, had a plaque or a wall hanging that had "Live Your Life." Life is a journey, and there was all these different things in it, which is at the end of my chapter. And it's all the different chapters, I guess, that you have in life that you go through, that you've got to work through and experience in order to get to the end of your journey. To say that at the end of your life, this is what I've accomplished. Some of it happens to you along the way that you don't have control over what happens. You just are in the right situation, so the right place at the right time. Sometimes you're in the wrong place, but you have to remember that you're always where you need to be at that point in time. So part of my journey is I didn't understand, in the very beginning where I needed to be or why I was there, what was going to happen, where did I need to go. I knew the certain things that I wanted to do, the pathway that I needed to be on, but I didn't know how to get there. And sometimes just going through the hard slog of, like schooling, and this is what I tell the kids, is that you've just got to go through schooling. There's opportunities will present themselves. You just don't know where you're going to be. But if you're not in the game or you're not in that pathway, you might not have that experience. So for me, I could try to break life down into those little chapters. Life is love. You've got to experience it. And yes, that means the good and the bad with it, but it shapes you so that when the next opportunity comes along, you've learned your life lessons from the past and you're able to make a better choice, I guess, to lead you on to the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. So in your chapter, your parents, you talk about your childhood and your parents always encouraged your learning, and your mother said to you, knowledge is a valuable asset that no one can take away from you. Use it to be self-reliant and shape your life on your terms. Can you tell us more about this?
Of course. So my grandfather from Mauritius, my mom's dad, was a high school principal. Now, Mauritius showing my age, but like the 60s and 70s was a very poor country, and my mom's always been very honest about where she's from. So he encouraged his children. My mom's one of 9, so he encouraged his children to go into education. And on my mom's side, a lot of my uncles and aunties have got higher education. They went in from a very poor family. They went into, a lot of them are teachers. I've got cousins who are professors at the moment, and I've got, a lot of aunties and uncles went into education. So they were trying to enhance themselves as well as lift up others along the way, which I feel is an amazing life principle to have. My mum actually left Mauritius and went to the UK to study nursing. A lot of opportunities were not available to them at that point in time, culturally as well as geographically as well. So I feel that she, in the 70s, for a young girl, she was 24 at the time, to leave her family and to travel to a completely different cultural place to learn nursing was an amazing experience for her, but also an inspiration for me. And also, the future generations coming along. So that's one thing she's always encouraged us. So my dad as well left South Africa and went to the UK to do optometry. And again, his situation was a bit different. Obviously being male and being female and being, in that sort of generation was a different time. I think we can acknowledge that. But the fact is, they were able to make those decisions. And I mean, I look back now and I just think, would I be able to let my 10-year-old daughter, decide when she gets older? And it's that sort of deep, I suppose, insight into life that, sometimes you've got to let these things happen. That is their pathway. You might not like it, but you've got to make your peace with it. But to know that the knowledge that they're gaining from that is a wonderful thing, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And, your mum talking about shaping life on your own terms. I think that that's a gift that, particularly for women, that education gives you the ability to make choices and do things differently if you need to.
Absolutely. No, I definitely firmly believe that. And that is one thing that we always encourage, not for boys and girls as well, having the education and the knowledge. And it doesn't necessarily have to be academic smarts. It can be something, a skill that you've developed that, you do really well, that people can't ignore you. You know your craft inside out, where you're actually able to be the best at what you do. I think that is an amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did face challenges in life. And you quote from the chapter says, "Determined persistence is vital. Obstacles and diversions are inevitable, and how you handle them shapes your advancement." Can you tell us about this?
Absolutely. So I started my training in the UK as a sonographer. So I knew by my second year of university that I wanted to do sonography. I went into radiography. I did x-rays, I did ultrasound, did CT, MRI, all of those things. But once I got into that ultrasound room, to see how ultrasound is performed and to see the wealth of knowledge that you have doing that scan and being able to gain the knowledge in a fast amount of time, especially with experience, that really stuck with me. And so I knew that I wanted to do sonography from, like I said, the second year of radiography. However, it was a postgraduate course when I did it, which was a while ago. And so I had challenges because it was a postgraduate course. We had to work in the work as a postgrad for a couple of years before you could get into a training position, because there weren't very many available. Sonography is a niche field, so I had to then look for training programs and things like that. But in the meantime, I'd actually moved countries. So I'd moved from the UK to Australia. Now, coming to Australia, to Perth, was even smaller niche field. So they generally didn't take people that were not known in the field. You had to then go into a hospital environment. You had to work there for a few years. You had to join their training program. You had to wait online to do these things. So there was a bit of that. And I had to then, I found a way of doing a postgrad overseas in the UK. So I did that. And then coming back here, I converted that to, it's called the DMU, which is a board online. So I was able to do that. And that's quite, it's a diploma of medical ultrasound, which is all done by yourself. So there's no structured program. It's not a university course. You're literally just given a syllabus and said, see you at the exam. So a lot of it was very hard work. And then trying to find a training program to sit the final exam was very difficult. I got to the point where I was actually considering giving up sonography. So I went back to radiography, and I finally found a place that allowed me to sit my DMU part 2, which was the practical exam. And like I said, I would be forever grateful, because I was actually emotionally and professionally depleted at that point, because I tried all avenues. I was not given a break. I was at the point where I was ready to give up. So I'll be forever grateful for that clinic, and he knows who he is, to that clinic for actually giving me the opportunity to do that. So that's what I mean by, I could have given up, and I could have just said, right, that's it. I'm just going to give up and not do it anymore. But I was able to persevere through that. And now it's amazing. Like, I never thought I would actually own my own radiology clinic, because that, even 10 years ago was not even an idea or an option for me. So it's persevering, and it's finding ways. And even when I moved from clinical staff to management, that was a new role for me. I've never been in a management position. I've always been, sonography is generally part of a department. We're under, the care of the radiology department, or a radiologist, or a doctor. And we still have radiologists working for us and doctors around us, but being management was a new experience for me. And again, finding out the information I need to, in order to set up all of the accreditations, to get all the Medicare boards and get all of those medical things on board was a definite steep learning curve. But I think I've managed to crack it.
Incredible. So many obstacles that you had to overcome, and that persistence to keep going through all of those setbacks is really.
And not only that, it was I had a young family. My kids, when we first started this, they were all in primary school. So it's being an involved parent as well. And, my husband and I, we work together really well. So that's made a huge difference. We had a few other challenges with health issues along the way. And so, yeah, it's been interesting. But like I said, you never know what life's going to throw at you. It is a journey, and you face challenges. You either, we know that saying, you either sink or swim. So, yeah. It's what you have, the drive and the perseverance to go, you know what, I've reached this obstacle. Do I go around it? Do I climb over it? Or do I just lie here and just wait for somebody to find me? It's whatever decision you choose to do. I'm more of I think I'm going to try and climb this mountain.
Yeah, I can tell that you are. Absolutely. Now, in your chapter, you talked about hard times as well. You said life can be sorrow, and you experienced your own pain in your journey to motherhood. And so now, as a radiographer, giving hard news to parents is part of your job. Do you think that your own personal experiences have given you a greater level of empathy when you are working with these parents?
Definitely, for sure. I've found that's really helped me. We struggled for about 4 years to actually fall pregnant with our first. So we did go through a whole fertility journey. And again, it's one of those things that was unexplained, because the next two just turned up when they were ready. We had no idea. they were our surprise babies. I do call the first one my most expensive and the other two my freebies. But it's that humor that you have to insert into your life. Otherwise, it becomes quite despairing. I've had to really, I think, delve deep into my feelings and make peace with that. Sometimes that is my journey. That's what I needed to do, because at the moment I use a lot of my experience in my work. So I do work with the fertility clinics. I work with the nurses and a lot of the patients that come through. So I'm able to understand where they are in their journey and their life. So some of them have primary infertility, which is where they've not been able to fall pregnant at all due to various conditions. Some have secondary infertility, which is where they've fallen pregnant before they've had a baby and now it's unexplained. So and some people just have pregnancy loss, or they have pregnancy loss in the later stages of pregnancy, which is probably one of the hardest things I think I've ever had to break to somebody, and just be with them. So I found that each woman is going through their own personal pregnancy journey. And as health professionals, there are ways of dealing with it, but I feel that we need to walk alongside them instead of standing and giving lectures and saying, we don't know why this has happened, but next time it'll be different, or, don't worry, it will work for you. You've got to be able to share some of your experience with them and say to them, look, we don't know why this has happened, but, this is how we can help you. This is how we can support you. Have a bit of hope, have a bit of faith, and just try to heal. You need to heal and have that hope in order to move forward. If you go down that spiral of, anger and despair and sorrow, it's a lot harder to put yourself back together. And it does affect your next pregnancies, because you do find that you tend to hang on to that emotional trauma with the next ones. And sometimes if the pregnancies happen too fast, you don't really resolve the previous trauma before you've had the next child. So you get to a point with maybe sometimes it's a year later, sometimes it's 5 years later, where the wheels just come off and you just don't know what's happened to you. So it's being able to deal with the emotional trauma and to heal yourself to move forward, which I feel is really important. And I think for me personally, I'm able to help women do that because of the experiences I've been through.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in your chapter, you also talk about the importance of embracing adventure. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes, well, just sometimes my whole life's an adventure. Just having, like I said, having the opportunities present itself of being able to say, you know what, there's this opportunity to, here's a site where you can open your 3D ultrasound clinic, or you can have a diagnostic clinic. We've got the support is around you. Now, again, I could have said, you know what, that sounds too exciting, it's too hard, it's going to be too much of a challenge. Do I say no, or do I go forward with it? I am a very much, if you give me something and I look at it and I think, you know what, I can do that, I will take that challenge. I will go on an adventure. I do the roller coasters. I'll do all the stuff that I'm, sometimes now my kids sort of do say to me, you're a bit too old to do that. But I think probably not. Let's have a go. Let's have a go at it and see.
You're never too old, never too old.
This is it. So this is where the adventure part comes in. I do very much like challenges. Not so much when I'm in the middle of them, and when, I find that I've taken on a bit too much. But I do find that life, you have to experience it, and you've got to go on that adventure, even if it means, that halfway through it, you sort of lose a bit of gumption, but I think you find the reserves in yourself to move on and to move forward and enjoy it. And again, you can experience a challenge in a sorrowful way, or you can experience a challenge in a joyful way and find ways around it. There's always help along the way. And this is what I found, is that if you are going through a tough time, there's always help. You've just got to put it out there and ask for it.
Oh, I love that advice so much. Well, thank you so much, Arusha, for being here with me today for this conversation. And thank you for sharing your chapter in Purpose and Passion. I really enjoyed reading it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been a wonderful experience. And like I said, it's been a good adventure. So I definitely enjoyed it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you again. And thank you to everybody who has tuned in. If you of Purpose and Passion yet, you can find it at wcwpress.com. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Take care.